Hey everyone, I'm your host, Dr. Dave, for a live event where we're going to talk very briefly about the benefits and the neuroscience of breathwork and why this is so important, and give you some really easy exercises that you can do. Hello, thanks for joining. And give you some really easy exercises to do to take control of your attention in any moment, literally at any time. And we all need this right now, I think, because there's a lot of stress in particular. It affects all of us, and it's undeniable. When we deny it, it actually gets much worse. So the more we can embrace the fact that we are all feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit stressed out, maybe a little more so than usual, the quicker we can get to feeling better. That acknowledgement is key. And speaking of acknowledgement, I think it's really important to mention that this is Mental Health Awareness Week. Mental Health Awareness Week is, unfortunately, it has to have its own week, but mental health and physical health and emotional and spiritual health are really all the same. We refer to them separately because the healthcare system does, but ultimately, I think it's really important that everybody understands that when you're listening to this, mental health is physical health. If we are mentally ill or mentally upset or uncomfortable or have mental health stuff going on, that could be anything from just feeling sad a lot of the time or having a low mood or a lot of anxiety. If we don't do anything about that, it can become physical illness. And similarly, if we don't do anything about our physical illness or our physical symptoms and those go on for a long time, they can actually become mental illness. So that is really important to note, because the mind and the body are intricately and irrevocably interconnected, and change to one causes change to the other. So today I'm going to teach you a little bit about how we can use our breath, which is the most important thing that any of us can control in any moment, to balance the mind and therefore balance the body, and vice versa. The reason why breath is so important is because it is the single most essential thing that we can control at any time. So I know that I did not learn this growing up. I also did not learn this in medical school. So I'll pass it on to you from many years of experience. But anxiety, at its source, at the core of what anxiety really is anxiety comes from feeling out of control. And when we feel out of control, the question is why? So the reason why is because we spend time thinking about things that we don't have control over. Now, when we only have so much time in any given day to think about anything, and we spend 30%, 40%, 60% of that time thinking about things we don't have control over, the most common example is thinking about things that, thinking about the way other people think about us, for instance, we end up feeling more out of control more of the time. So the answer to that is, well, let's figure out how to spend more of our time each day thinking about things we do have control over. And the thing that we always have control over in almost any situation is our breath. So by drawing our attention back to our breath, one of the major ways that breath helps us is it reminds us of what we're in control of. The more time we spend directing our attention back to our breath, the more we feel in control of our environment and our situation and our lives as a whole, and how we feel, and therefore the less anxious we feel. Because anxiety stems from spending time thinking about things we can't control or that are outside of our control in this moment. So, bringing back to the moment, this is one of the most important anxiety management strategies that we have available to us at any time, and every single human being is born with the ability to use this anxiety management technique in any moment. So, the second reason why breathing works so well is because breathing sends a signal to the brain when we take a deep breath and we spend a little bit of time breathing in, really being present with the breath. So this is one of the biggest issues that people have with breathing that most people don't learn, is that breathing should be intentional. Breathing happens in the background when we're doing other things, like running from a lion or running a meeting at work or driving a car, but we also have control over it at any moment. And so when we have an opportunity to breathe in, we can actually breathe into our bodies and be present with the air, be present with our bodies in the moment, feeling the air come into our nose and mouth and lungs, down our windpipe, into the deepest recesses of our lungs, and really just being present and feeling our lungs fill up with air. When we feel our lungs fill up with air, we can really feel them expand. And with each breath of the technique we're going to work on today, we're going to focus on just feeling our lungs fill with air and feeling ourselves connect with our bodies and feel that air really come in and then out. The amount of energy that it takes to do this is very small, which is good. But what it does is it sends a signal to our brains from our nose and mouth and lungs and our bodies that says, if I have, and we're not always aware of this message, but it sends us a neural message, a neural signal through our nerves to our brains that says, if I have the time to pay attention to the feeling of this air coming into my lungs and nose and mouth, then I can't possibly be running from a lion in this moment. I can't possibly be in a survival situation. Because if I was in a survival situation, my body and my mind would not even allow me to take the time to pay attention to the feeling of this breath, because we've evolved to enter fight or flight or freeze and get out of that situation to survival as quickly as possible. So to some extent, we have to feel safe, at least a little bit, to be able to focus intentionally on our breath. This signal repeats every time we take a deep breath, every time we draw our attention to our breath, and it's the same signal that happens when you apply soothing touch to your body, putting a little pressure on your chest, maybe rubbing gently the side of your neck or the inside of the outside of your ear or the inside of your palm of your thumb. All of these do a similar thing to the brain, which sends a signal to our brains that says, if you can pay attention to this feeling, the feeling of a purring animal is similar, the feeling of getting hugged by a loved one, if you have the time to pay attention to this feeling, the feeling of Apollo, this sends a signal to the brain that says, you can't possibly be running from a lion if you have the time to pay attention to this. And that centers the mind back into the body and helps us to be more present, more aware, and more centered and stronger effectively in every single thing that we do. We have more access to more of ourselves when we're in that state in everything that we do, because the other 50 or 80 or whatever percent of ourselves is not spending that time panicking. So, especially when it's unnecessary panic, which is most of the panic that we have. So that being said, let's get started. For all of you who have an Apollo wearable, you can start your Apollo by setting it, clicking these two buttons if you have a setting already set that you like to breathe with, or we recommend set your Apollo to meditation and mindfulness mode, and then tap two buttons to turn on. And once that starts, you'll feel the gentle awareness settle in of the vibration. It shouldn't be distracting. It should just be barely noticeable, but noticeable enough that you feel the gentle vibration kind of coming up, and then coming down and fading out, and then again coming up gently and fading out. And this rhythm is very important because this is the rhythm that the body naturally comes into when we achieve a state of calm from a deep breathing exercise. And it's one of the basic rhythms of meditation, or being able to enter into a meditative state. So, the way we'll start this breathing technique, which is one of my most favorite breathing techniques, and there's a lot of different names for it. One of the names we call it is like straw breathing, because it's almost like breathing through a straw, and then nice through your mouth. And then, while many breathing techniques use the nose, and you can feel free to do this through your nose if you have practiced, when this technique is nice because you don't need any practice. You can have zero skill in intentional breathing whatsoever and still be able to tap into this technique. So while you're gently aware and noticing your Apollo, the way this technique works is you purse your lips like you're sucking a drink through a straw, or as if you're whistling, kind of like this. And then you gently breathe in through your mouth and just feel the air coming in through your pursed lips, like a whistle or like sucking in through a straw. And it's okay if you make a sound. It's not a worry. Over time, as you get used to doing this, it becomes easier to do it silently or very quietly. And as you move your lips, when you start out with pursed lips, the most important thing when you start doing this exercise is just to be aware of your lips and be aware of the way you can gently move your lips, just very tiny amounts, to either increase or decrease the amount of airflow coming in, or the speed and the amount of air coming in. So just try that with me for a moment. And the best way to do it is to start by pairing your breath with your Apollo. So as your Apollo starts, we breathe in through pursed lips for a count of about 5, and then we hold and breathe out. For a count of about 5. And you can keep doing this with your Apollo, and notice again, as you adjust your lips very slightly, you have exquisite control over the airflow coming into your body. You can feel the air coming in through your mouth, you can feel the air going out, and you can keep doing this with your Apollo rhythm, and you can match your breath to your Apollo rhythm. This is the best way to get started with any breath technique in particular, because we call it pacing, and it's a way to pair the breathing with something that keeps rhythm for you, kind of like learning music. So as you breathe, continue to feel the air coming in through your lips with your Apollo, in for about 5. And then you feel your lungs filling up and start to feel the air really coming in and filling and expanding your lungs, and then out for 5. And then we do this again. And then out for 5. And with each time we do this, just try to feel the air, only the air coming in for 5. Feeling it come down through our mouth, into our throat, into our windpipe and our lungs, filling our lungs and expanding as much as possible, and then out. Feeling the air come out, feeling our chest cavity come back, closing in, creating pressure to suck that air back in again. And then out. And this is a great exercise. Please feel free to keep doing this if you like, and you can do different things with it that can also help, like bringing your hands up as you inhale, as you fill your lungs. And then out. And this pairs very well with stretching, so you can stretch from the side. And reach up as high as you can, and then out. Imagine like inflating your body like a balloon. And then out. Now this exercise, and feel free to keep going as I'm talking, becomes particularly interesting when we want to achieve certain states of mind. So as you probably notice, I'm talking a little more slowly. I personally notice that my heart rate has slowed down a little bit. My thoughts have slowed down a little bit. You may notice the same things in yourself. Just continue to draw your attention back to your breath. And always try to keep the Apollo vibrations as low as possible in intensity, where you just barely notice them, but they're not distracting. You don't want the Apollo to ever distract you from being present with your breath or with whatever it is you're doing. So the next step with this exercise, to take it to the next level, is to keep breathing and start at that roughly 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And then as you get comfortable with that, maybe after about 6 cycles or 10 cycles, 30 to 60 seconds even, you can start to increase the inhale and the exhale time, maybe by a half second or 1 second at a time. So we can try this now. So we'll start by doing 5 in and 5 out. Then we'll go to 6 seconds in and 6 seconds out, 7 seconds in and 7 seconds out. And with each breath, trying to just fill those lungs, fill that balloon in our bodies just a little bit more each time. And we're going to try to go up to 10 seconds in and 10 seconds out. Eventually, especially if you're trying to fall asleep, going up to as much as 15 seconds in to 20 seconds per each breath cycle, 15 or 20 seconds in for each inhale and 15 or 20 seconds for each exhale, which you can do just by changing the texture and the tightness of your lips, which in music we call the embouchure, but it's basically how tight your lips are together or apart, can adjust the airflow to allow you to get as much speed and amount of air as you want to make your breaths as short or as long as you want. So let's start with 5 in, 5 out for a couple breaths, and then we'll go up. And 5 out. Five in again. And 5 out. Now let's try 6 in. Fill our lungs a little more. 6 out. Now let's try 7 in. And now 7 out. And now let's try 8 in. And 8 out. And you could feel your lips getting just a little bit tighter with each inhale and exhale. 9 in. Feel those lungs filled, and 9 out. And now we'll go for 10. I'm going to count for you so you can just pay attention to the air. And feel those lungs filled and expanded fully, and then exhale. Let's stay at 10 for another. And out. And we'll do one more at 10. And out. And just sit with that feeling and just feel your body, feel your air, feel your heart, feel the awareness of calm and peace in your mind and your heart. And just revel in that and enjoy it, because this is something that you can access at any time. And the faster we increase that breathing, meaning the fewer seconds we have with each breath, then the more we can actually start to increase energy. We all have a lot of energy right now, so I focused on a dose of calm for today. The slower the breaths, from 5 seconds in going up to 10 seconds with each breath, then the more calm we feel, the more relaxed we feel, and the more connected and present we feel. And we can increase that as even further, which we didn't do today because I don't want to put you all to bed, but to access deep meditative states and states of sleepiness. This is a tremendous exercise that any of us can do before bed, and it's something that I've been using for decades to help me fall asleep more effectively at night. And while for many of you it may seem a little tricky for the very first time, this is something that gets much, much easier as we practice. So like everything we do in life, the more we practice doing it, the better we get, because this is the fundamental way that our nervous system learns in our bodies and our brains, that our nervous system learns how we want it to react to the environment, how we want to feel. And then it can recreate these feelings for us more easily. So I invite you, after this experience, to try this at home. Try it whenever you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed out, whenever you're lying in bed struggling to sleep at night. Try this exercise, and please tell us what you think. Reach out. We always like to hear from you at Apollo, on my personal page at Dr. David Rabin on Instagram. And we always like to hear from you, so please reach out. And thank you again for joining us for your daily dose of calm and breath from Apollo Neuroscience. Thanks again, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.